mentioned, obviously, Office 365. Our next presenter is looking at a different type of cloud-based service. So we've got Edward Pohl from Cranfield University who's going to talk about what they've done with Rubrik. And sounds like it's going to be an interesting discussion as well.
I hope so.
Edward.
So yeah, today just a session really talking about Rubrik and how we've used cloud data management to increase our operational efficiencies and to further enable our journey into the cloud. So this is me. I'm head of IT infrastructure within the IT department at Cranfield. We're a centralised IT department providing services for the entire university. So as Drew mentioned previously in his talk, we don't have pockets of IT all over the university. I'm reasonably new to post. 6 months ago I was promoted from the systems manager position, so my background comes from the systems admin, storage, virtualization, cloud, infrastructure architecture point of view. But now I'm managing the whole infrastructure team, which involves the systems team, networks, our high performance computing research facility, and some of the infrastructure projects, particularly in relation to facilities projects, so new builds and development of the IT infrastructure within those. So Cranfield University is a wholly postgraduate university located between Milton Keynes and Bedford. We're a semi-rural site built up on an old World War II RAF base. We have an operational runway, which we do research on. We're 45 minutes from Cambridge, 45 minutes from London, 45 minutes from Oxford, so we're right in the centre of the UK government's new brain belt. So perfectly placed. We've also got a secondary site down at Shrivenham on the MOD's Defence Academy, where we provide the educational, or the majority of the educational services for them down there within the wire. And that's the single largest education contract within Europe. Our core subjects are aerospace, defence and security, energy and power, environment and agri-food, management and leadership, manufacturing, transport systems and water. We deliver education to around 20,000 students per year. 15,000 of that is for our continuous professional development courses. 4,000 is the taught MSc courses and such like. And then we've got around 1,000 PhD students. This year as well, this week, we launch our masterships program, which is master's level apprenticeships, so level 7 apprenticeship scheme, allowing businesses to send their middle and senior managers and senior technical people to us to accelerate their journey into those leadership positions. 50% of our students come from outside of the UK, and that's spread across 100 countries. And over 50% of our students are also part-time while in full-time employment. So a couple of slides around our transformational research that the marketing department likes to use. We are number 1 in the UK for research income per academic head, and 80% of our research, according to the REF in 2014, was world-class or internationally excellent. So we're well thought of within the industry. So from an IT overview, technology within Cranfield is well invested in. The business recognises that we need a modern, resilient, highly available service to carry out its day-to-day tasks, and more importantly to provide that teaching and research. With the ever-changing research landscape, as an IT department, we're always pushed forward by the demands of our customers. On a whole, we take a digital approach where we can to help the business transform its current processes, whether that's chatbots on the support desk, CRMs, university-wide data warehousing so we can get better business insight, and security. Because of the work we do, security's always been high on our radar. And at the minute, we know whether that's compliance orientated with things like GDPR, or whether it's base requirements for the research contracts that we're taking part in. as I've said before, we've got a strong relationship with the MOD, so we have been able to use those in the wire facilities to provide some of that accreditation in the past. Although more of the work we're doing now is requiring us to build our own secure facilities, whether that's Cyber Essential Plus, and all the processes that go with that. Okay, so onto the topic at hand really, backup in the cloud. I just want to make it clear that this is not really a criticism of what we were using previously, but it was getting old, it was getting tired, harder to manage, all those other things that come with aging infrastructure. And originally we only actually went out to replace our storage arrays, so we had a four-year research cycle and it was time to replace the storage arrays. So December last year, our environment and backup looked as we've got on screen now. So we're around 500 Marcom virtualized machines. The odd physical server here and there, but it's mainly things like network monitors, stuff with lots of NICs in that you're never going to be able to virtualize anyway. We are 2 on-site data centers, HA configuration, everything's replicated between the two, high-speed data links, SAN, all those other nice things that we've got to protect ourselves from data centers failure on site. But as you can see, from a backup point of view, we were a Veeam customer, so we had multiple Veeam servers, proxies, EMC data domain storage arrays. Our remote site down at Shrivenham, we also had, again, Veeam servers, Veeam storage arrays. And then to protect our data, we offered, or we replicated to a DR site, third-party hosted. One of the key areas we had at fault here really was that whilst we were sending all our data off-site, there was no compute off-site to power anything up in the event of a complete lights out at main site. So what the plan was there was a little woolly. Technology-wise, from a compute and storage, we're a pure storage customer. We're using HP blades to deliver compute resources across that stretched VMware cluster. So, strategic procurement, the process for our strategic procurement was fundamentally reduce costs. I think that's across the business. Everyone wants to save money at the minute. Reduce our management time. With the previous 3-tier solution, we're managing Veeam, we're managing storage arrays, we're managing the off-site replication. All these points of command, increase management time and increase the complexity of the solution. So, if there is a fault, which part of that system was there a fault with? And furthermore, increased performance. I think every IT upgrade at some point requires some performance upgrade. Now, as a pure storage customer with all flash arrays, we took storage performance off the table 4 years ago. So we don't worry about storage performance. When it came to backup, that was a different matter. We're writing back to spinning disk, and at peak performance times there's a management of contention and all those other things that we worried about running a service like this. So this is where Rubrik came up on our radar. We went out originally to procure new storage arrays, but one reseller came to us and said, well, if you're looking at just storage arrays, have you considered a complete replacement of the whole solution? Which is when they brought along Rubrik to give us their overview. Now, we don't take Gartner as gospel, but we do tend to use it as a sanity check, so we'll go out and do our own research and investigation, and then analysis call, make use of the web resources they have available just to check that we're not doing something completely different to the rest of you. Now, the backup and restore solutions, Magic Quadrant, is notoriously hard to come into. It's ultra conservative because people tend not to want to put all their backup data in technologies that are untrusted and unproven. So technologies we'll be using are up in the top right-hand leaders. But Rubrik is down in this visionary column. I think a lot of the technologies we bought over the years, particularly things around Pure, start in the bottom right-hand quadrant. So they've come with a new message. They're the disruptor. you head north into leaders when you start to take your market value and your market share goes up. And the thing that struck us with Rubrik was the way it was a complete redesign. You know, no 3-tier, one box, no licensing, you know, agility, all those other nice things that come with a single platform. So, on to some of the features that turned our heads as far as Rubrik concerned and how we saw them to be benefiting us. Installation. I mean, as I mentioned now, Rubrik is a single platform. It's a storage device, a piece of software, a single contained node of cluster of nodes. Installation then, of course, is simple. Rack it, stack it, network in the back, away you go. There's no multiple configurations and multiple components to provide you with that system. Automated machine learning based backup policies. So this is one of the biggest things we have to get our head around with Rubrik is there are no backup jobs, there are no schedules, there are no backup windows to manage from Rubrik's perspective. The questions are, how many backups do you want? How long do you want to keep them for? And where do you want them to be placed? On-site and off-site. You know? And then Rubrik, using machine learning techniques, decides how it's going to distribute that over the day, the week, the months, and manages it all for you. So gone are those peak backup window opens at 6 o'clock, all your infrastructure grinds to a halt, and if you're lucky, it's finished by 6 o'clock the following morning. Agentless deployment. Point at your vCenter, point at your Nutanix, point at your Hyper-V, auto-discovery, all your your machines are imported, and you apply those SLAs that you've configured to them. Integrated Oracle support. So we make quite a lot of use. All of our corporate systems are Oracle backed, so it's quite important to us to have this integrated Oracle support. Whilst Veeam has Oracle support, we didn't previously use it in Veeam because we could never really get it to work properly. So what we were doing every night is backing up the raw VM and then using Oracle dumps out to an NFS share so that we could guarantee that we'd have that Oracle system protected. Using Oracle and RMAN and a few modification scripts, we can initiate a backup job from our Oracle servers. Using Rubrik's API, it will open up an NFS share for the length of time that backup is running, and then close down the NFS share when it's finished. So Rubrik is a contained box, no shares on it, nothing for users to go and find, nothing for hackers to go and break. Particularly with Oracle, you know, NFS is only available during a backup window to a specific machine. Yeah, I didn't go. So global search. Again, as Rubrik's got a very simple, very easy to use interface. One point of command. And from that interface as well, you can do a global search across all your data sets. You want to file xyz.txt, you can search in the GUI and you get a Google-like response that says this is where it is across your entire infrastructure. Which is great for finding files that somebody says, I put it somewhere and it shouldn't have been there, and can you go and find it for me? Again, reporting and analytics, whether that's for compliance reasons or simple day-to-day reporting that we get out, you customize reports, everything you want, you can get from the one single interface. Availability and resilience. As I mentioned previously, we had been using a third-party hosted data domain unit to replicate our data to. That cost a lot of money. It was on the end of a restricted bandwidth pipe, so we were having to manage that bandwidth to make sure that we could replicate off-site. With Rubrik's Cloud Archive, we can send data directly into storage accounts within the public cloud. We, as probably most of you are Azure customers, and our network connection off-site is not the slow piece. Microsoft readily throttle us if we try and throw too much data around them. So big tick in the box, huge cost saving for us there to get rid of that third-party hosting and know that we're sending it to our storage account that we're in control of. Near instant recovery times. So Rubrik's got a solution called Live Mount, where from the console we can mount any snapshot that's been taken with that Rubrik device, present it back into vCenter, boot it back off the Rubrik device, and then transfer back into the live environment. So an example we've had here is pretty much, I think Ant may even still be on site implementing it, when one of our network devs decided that he was going to destroy the principal Ansible server. And we had it attached back to vCenter, booted and migrated back into the live environment within 3 or 4 minutes. 2-3 clicks at most. SQL database recoveries and clones. Again, same sort of technology as live mount. You can pick a database and have it live mounted back onto the server it came from or another SQL server in your environment. We've used our database devs use this quite extensively, because rather than us having to them asking us to log jobs, or them logging jobs to asking us to do database restores, or can we clone this or copy it here, they've now got the ability to be able to request that themselves and deliver that themselves. And finally, we've got Cloud On. So this is the ability for us to instantiate our backups that we've taken with Rubrik on site and instantiate them in Azure. Huge win for us. As I said earlier on, we didn't have any compute at our DR site. Now, using Rubrik's Cloud On, we replicate our backups to Azure, and should we need to get data up in Azure in a DR situation, we can boot a Rubrik cloud cluster, and we can restore directly from that Azure storage account into an Azure instance, and that includes the conversion from VMware to Azure. Security. Encryption. Backup data, archives, and the metadata is all encrypted at rest and in flight at all times. And we are the cryptos custodians of those keys, so we know at all times that nobody else has access to our data, which is a big tick in the box when it comes to compliance, as well as the relationship we have with our partners around, commercial research data and things like that. Immutability. So the way Rubrik takes and handles its snapshots, if we had a ransomware outbreak tomorrow and we need to go back to a snapshot, there is no way that that snapshot from previously can be infected by the same ransomware. So it gives us further reassurance that should we have an issue of that type, that we are still recoverable. Multi-tenancy out of the box, allowing secure separation between departments. Now, we don't make use of this at present because we are a centralised lead department providing these services for the university. But as mentioned earlier, again, with the landscape ever changing, that doesn't mean tomorrow somebody's not going to require that from us. And role-based access control. So these are the ability to delegate user access to certain virtual machines or certain backup sets. So as I mentioned, our SQL devs now have access to their own databases and can work without the requirements of our time to provision those things back to them. Okay. Future-proofing and Webscale. So from a footprint point of view, we went down from somewhere in the region 18 to 20 U, I think, down to 4 U in a single data center. Exactly the same amount of storage, a lot more compute, but I mean that's the way things are going now with this, with the convergence of technologies. But huge footprint saving, and obviously with the footprint saving, there's a cooling power and all the other services that are involved with that. Rubrik by design is scale out, and can handle unlimited growth. So if you need more capacity tomorrow, you buy more nodes and add them into the cluster. If you want to upgrade your nodes in 3 years' time, buy the new nodes, put them in the cluster, evacuate the old nodes, take the old nodes out. So it's that full web scale design, much as the big Azure, Google and everyone else use. Deduplication, I mean, most products nowadays have got deduplication. But Rubriks is globally across the entire cluster, so you're not managing data in each individual node. Those deduplication tables are shared within the whole infrastructure. RESTful API, and again, this is had huge advantages to us as far as automation goes. Rubrik's API is written to provide any functionality and more that you can get from the GUI. We automate SLAs, we automate snapshot control, all those nice things that save us time, we're now driving through Rubrik's API interface. And Cloud Out, again, I mentioned this on the previous slide, but this is the capability to replicate both to on-premise S3 containers, so whether it's something like Cloudian or whether it's out to a public cloud. So this is our backup service as of February, post procurement. So we've replaced all the overhead that we had here of 4 or 5 different servers, 3 storage arrays, restricted bandwidth, to now take all of our environment into one 4U cluster, one 6-node 4U cluster. Also protects our Shrivenham site because we're connecting direct to our vCenter instance. We pull data controlled on the first instance, depends how much data you've got here. First full, and then it's an incremental forever process, and then we replicate directly to Azure. For DR purposes now, we can power on the Rubrik cloud cluster, and we can pull directly out of this blob store into Azure instances. So where do we see going next, I suppose, with Rubrik and continuing that journey to using public cloud? Our primary data center on site is part of the university's master plan for redevelopment. And one of the things that we're really looking to see if we can achieve with Rubrik is, can we really achieve a pay-as-you-go DR model rather than buying everything in duplicate and HA between sites and running on multiple on-site data centers and all the other complexities that come with that. When they want to redevelop that building, can we really turn around to them and say, we don't need a data center? In parallel to that, we're already consolidating down our compute and storage on site, so our footprint has dropped considerably over the last few years anyway. Is it possible? Now, we're working closely with Rubrik's product teams at the minute to see if we can realise that fully automated DR process, and that's things that they're working on with us to achieve. Yes. And furthermore is to increase our security, compliance and auditing capabilities. The more of our data that we start putting in these cloud resources, whether it's SaaS or whether it's Azure, and it might be AWS next week or GCP the week after that, or on our on-site data centers, some of those governance and policies that potentially are hand-cranked when we're managing that data with our own data centers become fragmented and distributed, and there's a potential that we're going to lose control of those, and then accidents happen and ICO gets involved, and that's not what we want to happen. So Rubrik are building a unified system of record platform, which I believe they've got on show out there, called Polaris, allowing a SaaS platform management layer between all of our between all of our cloud or on-site resources, but allows us to apply global policies across that and control those. So whether they're compliance policies or security policies, or whether it's a change management, we can have a global view across all of our estate from one point. So savings and benefits, I think, that we've realised from this. Year one, so we've recognised probably a 30% cost saving over what we previously had. So whether that's not replacing backup storage arrays, backup servers, licensing costs. Again, some of these are going to continue to be realised over the following years. Our off-site storage requirements now for DR and replication are considerably less than they were previously. time savings is huge for us. From a staffing point of view, we were probably spending an hour a day, 5 hours a week managing the previous setup, whether that's making sure that it was replicating, all the other things that are involved in backup. Now we're lucky if we spend 5 minutes a day, and most of that is a sanity check to make sure that it's still accessible and it's still up and it still appears to be working. And if you equate that over the year, you know, the 4 or 5 year lifetime of that product, that's almost an FTE. Time saving. It's not a cost saving because we're not looking to get rid of anyone, but they can be redeployed to do more useful things. Data reduction. So we're currently seeing across our cluster, we're seeing a 4x data reduction. And we've seen an increase in performance. Now performance, certainly with backup, is hard to quantify. Or it's hard to quantify with a lot of things actually, because if things are working, then you're not really worried about the performance. Performance only becomes a problem when things start to slow down or you start to notice anything. So this is more to do with restores, I think, rather than the backup times. We take backups, and yes, but the time we can save, particularly around recoveries, using things like live mount, and all the time that's saved for us not having to service the development teams, is considerable. So, as a final message, I suppose to you guys, is that if any of you are approaching a window like this, I think you really need to make sure that you review your current strategy on backup and think what your future plans are, particularly in the move to the cloud, where you want to be in the short, medium and long term. And then take those requirements to market and see what's available. Rubrik ticked our boxes. We've gone down the Rubrik approach. It might be easier for you to all stay doing the same thing just because that's what you know, but does it really give you the benefits that you're going to seek long term by doing that? And I suppose on the side of that is be prepared to change, because we weren't prepared to change and then all of a sudden we did. So thank you very much. If any of you have got any questions, or either now or afterwards, come and grab me, or you can contact me via any of these platforms. We've also got, hosted by Kevin Mortimer, tucked over there in the corner, we have got a Rubrik HE focus group on Teams, so if anyone would like an invite to that, if you could drop me or Kevin an invite, we can bring you into that group. Thank you.
That's great. No questions for the time being then?
Good. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.